Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world. We are live from the nation's capital. That's Washington, D.C., to you and me. It is the Exceptional Conservative Show on the Exceptional Conservative Network. We certainly are not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation, first to the Republican and then to the socialists. Ladies and gentlemen, big foreign policy night. If you came here to talk about Hillary Rodham Clinton or Barack Obama, or some other Russian mafia thing, we ain't got time for that. We ain't got time for that. I want to thank God above for Janis Hall, J Hall World Report. We've been covering this stuff for 4 years before the mainstream media got in to corrupt it. Ladies and gentlemen, there's some foreign policy issues from the Middle East to Asia to the Congo to Latin America. Ladies and gentlemen, around the world is on a fireball right now. And our job is to try to break down the most complex issues to you in a very subtle kitchen table manner. And we're going to do that successfully tonight. Janis Hall will be in the second hour. We'll be talking about what's happening in Australia, where Sharia law is being embraced. We'll be talking about the South China Sea, where the Philippines are taking on China. We'll be talking about North Korea. We'll be talking about Syria. We'll be talking about Europe and here with the immigration. We'll be talking about a whole lot. That's just the tip of the iceberg. And then our first hour, Miss Denise Gary-Pandol, who is part of the Middle East Initiative, will be joining us. We will be talking everything Middle East like never before. I am so glad you're here. We will do your heart justice in our coverage tonight. It will be full, it will be plentiful, and that's not including in the latter half of the first hour. I will be talking about 2 big issues that kind of relate to a debut show of the business diva Melanie Collette on yesterday's Money Talking Melanie, which she had Ebony Williams on. Apparently, a little girl was raped by 5 refugees. And Juan Williams says that's not something that the national news needs to cover. Thank you, Juan. Doing it for the kids, huh, Juan? Anything for the kids. And then the other thing is in Seattle, Washington tonight. I'm quite certain that the LGBTQ community is raving. And I do mean in party fashion, simply because the Seattle mayor has been accused of sexually assaulting or manipulating young people. I don't know about you, but this stuff don't settle right with me, and so we'll be talking about this. So we got a lot to talk about tonight, and I'm so glad that you're here with us today, and we look forward to you staying with us. You know how we tip off this particular show, and we do it with grace, and we do it with great esteem. Of course, our kids lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Right behind me is all of the stuff that you'll need. On this side is the American flag. Yes, you'll see the American flag. That is what we pledge allegiance to. And right behind me over here is the Pledge of Allegiance. You can read the words for yourself and get a better understanding of why we do what we do every night. For those who are trying to follow us on live stream, unfortunately, we were having some technical difficulties. But par for the course so far this week. And so we apologize for that inconvenience. We hope to catch up with you in other variant ways. But we want you to put your right hand over your heart, take off your hats, and let's pledge allegiance to the United States of America. Lead us away, kids.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm talking about. Our kiddies leading the way. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, let us get on board. Mary, Ustream hates you. I am so sorry about that. Try definitely to follow us via SHR Media tonight, where actually the Bloviating Zeppelin, Sir Mark, will be joining us via Berserk Bobcat Saloon at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. Pacific. What joy to listen to him. Coming up now is Miss Denise Gary-Pandol of the Middle East Initiative. Has a wonderful talk show of her own out west, and glad to have her on the network. Good evening, Denise. This is Ken McClinton. You are live on the Exceptional Conservative Show out of Washington, D.C.
Well, thank you, Ken. It's just a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Well, it's a tremendous honor to have you on our network. You've been putting up the good fight to inform America about the issues of the Middle East long before there was an Obama, but certainly while he was in office. And you were forewarning us that his leadership from behind, if there is such a thing, was leading us into great peril. And it seems like the whole world is aflame tonight, thanks to his leadership. But I want to, before we get started, let everyone know exactly who you are. Can you tell us what the Middle East Initiative is all about?
You know, the Middle East Initiative is just a 501c3. It's a nonprofit. It's an educational foundation that I started because after teaching at a Bible college, you know, I've taught at several universities and colleges, and after this one Bible college I taught at, the president said, you know, you ought to get on radio. But you have to pay for radio, right?
Yep.
So at least I do. I have to pay for radio. So as, you know, being on radio, I just thought, you know, I'm educating the public and I'm doing so on a volunteer basis. I've had top secret clearances and, you know, worked on a lot of policies that had to do with fighting the war on Islamic terrorism. And, of course, trying to provide a prior president before President Obama with an understanding of events in the Middle East. And so with this educational foundation, the Middle East Initiative, it helps me to raise money to cover, you know, my airtime costs, my research costs, travel costs, etc., for, you know, speaking with people overseas and better understanding the thoughts and intents of America's leaders. So that's what that's all about, is providing education to the American people on issues that I think are critical to the national security of the United States and critical to allied nations like Israel, our most important strategic ally in the Middle East.
Indeed. And you can find the Denise Gary-Pandol radio show live on Tuesdays 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. on the WilkinsRadio.com network, and as well Saturdays 8 to 9 p.m. Pacific time. You'll find her on the same network that I happen to be on, Red State Talk Radio, and as well ICRN, Red Nation Rising Radio. And you'll find her on the various times there, and as well you'll find her on Nook Media and KKIM Albuquerque, New Mexico on Sundays from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. You are certainly a radio darling, and we're very glad to have you on with us tonight. And certainly those who are the policymakers that I happen to dine with here in D.C., and basically tell us that there's nothing to worry about. Turn your head, nothing to worry about. We got it all together. From where you are in terms of your broadcasting and from your work with the Middle East Initiative with Washington, D.C. policymakers, do you find that their assertions are accurate?
You know, not altogether. I do not.
Yeah.
And I'm deeply concerned. For example, this latest attack in Syria. Now, this is the first time that a president has initiated attack in Syria as a result of chemical or biological weapons. And I just want to say that during the Obama years, I don't believe things were okay.
Yeah.
Because as you and I both know, there were at least 5 that we're aware of chemical or biological attacks by President Assad on the civilian population. And so I think things are all right and that policymakers are right to tell you to turn your head. No, I do not. And I would like to say, you asked me a question in your email. What did I think the president's Middle East agenda is? And I think that this airstrike on this air base in Syria gives us an idea that for the President Trump, his first priority is the American people.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought this was incredible because this strike sent a message to not only Syria, but to Russia, to Iran, to China, to North Korea, to Pakistan, to countries that are in the process of building nuclear weapons and weapons of mass destruction, which are what chemical and biological weapons are. They're WMDs. And what President Trump said to the nation, I thought was so important the other day, because he pointed out that airstrike on that Syrian airfield was in the national interest of the United States, because it said to the world that we are not going to stand idly by, but we are going to stand firm in preventing and deterring the spread and use of deadly chemical weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if that isn't standing up for the American people and our national security, I don't know what is.
Exactly.
And, even during the Bush administration, I was teaching at a university down south at the time when one of the leading nuclear scientists that had worked under Saddam Hussein in Iraq fled to the United States. And he and I were having a discussion, and I said to him, what about the fact that the Bush administration, that he was working with the Atomic Energy Agency, and they said, now, by the way, the leadership at that time was headed up by an individual who happened to be Muslim and Arab.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he couldn't find weapons of mass destruction in the desert of Iraq. And this nuclear scientist that fled from Iraq said they're hidden. Those nuclear weapons are hidden, and some of them, he said, had been moved to Syria.
Yes.
And I had someone from the audience, ask me after the show today, where do you think Syria's gotten some of these chemical and biological weapons? And I said, from Iraq. And I said, I have no doubt, because reports that I have read, and in addition to actually meeting with an individual that was one of the lead scientists under Saddam Hussein, spoke to me personally. We,
Mm-hmm.
Talked eyeball to eyeball,
Mm-hmm.
and he clearly indicated that the United States government under President Bush, working with the United Nations organization that wasn't really dedicated to finding those weapons of mass destruction.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just thought, this is incredible. And, I heard on Fox News today, I'm hearing a lot of pushback on President Trump's message
Mm-hmm.
to the Syrians, to the Iranians, to the Russians. There's a lot of pushback saying, what is the president's plan going forward in Syria? And I'm thinking, the president of the United States, who is, by the way, if you checked his schedule for tonight, he's meeting with military. He's meeting with senior military leaders. He's met with Lieutenant General McMaster this afternoon. He's met this afternoon with Secretary of Homeland Security John Kelly. The president is meeting with his top policymakers with respect to national security. So
Exactly.
do I expect, the Trump team to come out tomorrow and announce plans with respect to Syria? No, I do not. And I hope that people listening to your radio broadcast thank the president for not broadcasting the plans for Syria. There is absolutely no reason for this new president that's having to deal with evolving challenges on the ground on a daily basis with respect to Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps terrorists fighting in Lebanon and Syria and Iraq, in addition to Iranian militia forces, Hezbollah, Russian forces. I mean, when you consider the number of agents, whether it's military or intelligence agents operating from enemy countries on the ground in Syria and in Iraq, in opposition to U.S.-led coalition forces, supporting the Syrian Democratic Forces and the Iraqi forces, this president and our national security team have hands full.
Exactly.
Why should he broadcast through the media what his plans are?
Exactly. And one of the biggest problems that we had in the last administration is that our enemies got at least 6 or 7 months head start on every military or diplomatic initiative. I mean, gee.
I helped this man. I got to tell you a story. There was an individual who was embedded. Actually, all of his brothers were embedded, not just him. This individual that I helped was in Afghanistan, and he was working with the United States military on radio broadcasts throughout Afghanistan, trying to spread the word about liberal democracy. And by liberal democracy, I just mean things like, the first 5 elements in the First Amendment to the United States Constitution: freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of press, the right to peacefully assemble and protest the government, equality of men and women. This man was working with the United States military and the State Department to try to get messages out that were set out as part of our Judeo-Christian heritage, that were written down by our founding fathers. And his brothers were embedded with special forces and other U.S. military forces as translators. And I was so heartbroken when he called me at one point and said, "It's terrible that the president," speaking about President Obama, "it's terrible that the president has let the Taliban and Al-Qaeda know that he's withdrawing the forces, because they'll just wait, and as soon as they see that Obama's begun to draw down U.S. forces, they'll begin attacking men, women, and children that they think have somehow helped the United States." And he wanted me to help him get his wife and children out, which I did. But wow. I just, it's terrible.
Yeah.
What President Obama did. I'm sorry for hesitating, but it was just horrific to hear the kinds of things that were going on in Afghanistan because the Taliban and Al-Qaeda knew.
Exactly.
And of course, as a result of Obama's policies, ISIS is now becoming well established inside Afghanistan. And that's also heartbreaking. Yep. So it's terribly disturbing when you look at, and if I could just ask your callers to, telephone the White House, telephone their member of Congress and say, please give our thanks to the president for not letting the enemies of the United States know ahead of time what his plans are in Syria and Iraq. And it's okay that he doesn't reveal what his ideas are going forward.
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to take a quick break, but when we come back, we are talking with the great Denise Gary-Pandol, and she is the Middle East Initiative, and not only a radio darling, but certainly a woman who has been broadcasting loudly that we were going in the wrong direction and the direction needed to be changed. And so when we come back, I want to talk with you about the braggadocio spirit. You should be able to boast on this of the President of the United States, who was meeting with China's Xi Jinping at the time that he was blasting away. And also, a lot of people don't understand, China's there too in Syria.
Absolutely.
And quite frankly, what a message to send to Xi Jinping as he sits across from you, and as well Putin, who is refusing to meet right now with Rex Tillerson, at least at last note. They're up and down on that particular meeting. But literally, there's a lot going on in the Middle East, and I want to broach it with a very great professional, Denise Gary-Pandol. We'll be right back with more of the best right after these messages.
Thank you.
Now, Brownells, we know you may have only one shot to harvest that trophy, so we have thousands of accessories and replacement parts to improve your chances. We know how much you love to shoot, so our gunsmiths articles and videos will help you do more and get more out of your guns. We also value your hard work and money. That's why only Brownells backs up everything we sell with a 100% unconditional lifetime guarantee. Brownells, the world's largest supplier of firearm accessories and gunsmithing tools.
It's a love story like no other. From God's heart to yours. And for 30 years, it's been at the heart of every book, Bible, CD, gift, and resource from ChristianBook.com. Over 500,000 products, always at the very best value. ChristianBook.com. Everything Christian. Because it's our story, too.
So what do you think about ebooks? Maybe you've never read.
I'm Kevin Clinton, chairman of the Exceptional Conservative Network. Never has the cry for economic liberty been more resounding in urban America than on Election Day 2016. It's the economy. All real change begins with the American entrepreneur. Socialism did not work. Progressivism stole the wealth of individuals and families. You voted for something different, real change. But what does real change look and sound like? It looks like Las Vegas, and it sounds like Freedom Fest 10. Freedom Fest, the world's largest gathering of free minds, is the popular liberty-minded conference at the beautiful Paris Resort in Las Vegas from July 19th to the 22nd. Hear the voices of the urban freedom movement: Denise Borelli, Larry Elder, Gina Lofton, Helen Riley, Ramesh Wadhwa, and Zayad Abdul-Noah. Share ideas with powerful, liberty-minded figures like Steve Forbes, Jim Rogers, Lee Edwards, David Boaz, Doug Casey, Dinesh D'Souza, John Stossel, Lisa Kennedy, Peter Schiff, and keynote speaker William Shatner. Your money, your liberty, your freedom, your city. Come for the real and return with the change. Register now at freedomfest.com. That's freedomfest.com for $100 off the regular registration rate when you use the all-caps code TECN. We'll see you there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope to see you in Las Vegas this summer, July 19th through the 22nd at Freedom Fest. And we welcome you back to the Exceptional Conservative Show, live from the nation's capital. We have with us a wonderful guest who is not only a wonderful broadcaster, but equally great in terms of Middle Eastern affairs. Denise Gary-Pandol with the Middle East Initiative. Denise, President Trump is dining with Xi Jinping last weekend, and all of a sudden, word gets to Xi Jinping as it's whispered in his ear that there's a bombing taking place. No, it's not in Hong Kong or any of that much. It's in exactly a place where he never expected it. It happened to be in Syria, and President Trump is taking out as much of a Air Force base as he possibly can with 59 Tomahawks. What do you think was China's Xi Jinping's reaction to that?
first of all, Secretary Tillerson reported out in a briefing to the press, and I thought this was important, his statement. So I'd like to share with you Secretary Tillerson's statement, because he indicated that President Trump directly informed the president of China at the end of the dinner that the missiles that were launched were currently hitting the ground at 8:40 p.m. towards the end of their dinner, and that the president told the Chinese president, that this was a result of Assad's violation of the use of chemical weapons. It was a human rights violation in killing women, children, and babies, and that the president of China turned to the president and said that in fact, Tillerson says that he expressed appreciation to President Trump for letting him know, telling the president of China his rationale, and indicating that he understood the response. So I'm sure that China was taken back, but what an important message to send to the Chinese. And I think it's incredible, because Tillerson has made clear that unlike the Obama administration, that all of the discussions with respect to international trade and the horrific trade deficit that we have with China, the fact that China has refused to trade fairly with the United States. And I thought it was very instructive to the international community that Tillerson made clear that all of the discussions with respect to trade also included human rights. And in fact, Tillerson said that he believed that America's values are quite clear, and that they need to occupy the core of all the discussions with China. And Tillerson pointed out that he didn't think that it was necessary to have separate conversations, because our core values on human rights are not unique and separate, but are part of who we are as the American people. So whether we're having economic discussions or military-to-military discussions or foreign policy discussions, but every conversation needed to be informed on our human rights. And Ken, isn't that the exact opposite of what we heard from the Obama administration when John Kerry and his team, while they were negotiating that Iran deal, which would allow Iran to continually develop nuclear weapons, that the Kerry team said that they never once brought up the issue of Americans imprisoned for their Christian faith inside Iran. That they never broached the idea of basic human rights in Iran as Christians. Iranian Christians were locked up, tortured, or killed on the street inside Iran.
Exactly.
You know, it's tremendous, the night and day that we see with respect to the Obama administration in comparison to the Trump administration. And I think I think that it's important that we draw that distinction. And you know, I wanted to say something else, but I know you have another question, so I'll let you go ahead.
No, I want you to go forth what you're saying here, because America needs to hear. While I'm a bit reticent about the bombing, not for the reasons given, but I don't want us going into Syria when I mean, John McCain picked the worst group to support possible in Syria. So there's just so many bad guys in this particular fight that's going on in Syria.
But we're already in. But you know, we're already in Syria.
Exactly. We have 1,000.
Well, and that number has actually grown. So we have a U.S.-led coalition. Additional special forces and Marines have already been sent. So the number has grown. But the bottom line is that and I want your audience to know and understand this, it's absolutely in the national security interest of the United States that ISIS has wiped out in Syria.
Yeah.
I don't know if your listeners are aware of the fact, but ISIS has just released another document that they published in social media, indicating over 8,000, I believe it's 8,700 names and addresses here in America, Americans that are on their list to kill, on their kill list. So, we've grown the numbers. I think that President Trump, is very interested in using special forces. This group will get the job done. I know that Marines are assisting. I know that the Army's there, the Air Force. This is truly in America's national security interest to do this. And what they do going forward in terms of handling Assad, there are several options I know they're looking at. I know that when they were in the Situation Room, it was reported out by Secretary Ross that, the president listened thoroughly and completely to all of the information by his military, diplomatic, and economic advisors. And, he made a thoughtful decision on what to do. And again, I know that there are conservatives that have reservations about their airstrike in Syria, but it was past time that the United States sent the message that we're not going to tolerate the use of weapons of mass destruction. Because let's remind the listeners, we've got not only military in the region, but we've got embassies and consulates, we've got human rights groups, we've got humanitarian aid groups on the ground.
Yes.
There's a lot of Americans and American interests. There are businesses. We've got to protect that, and it is in our national interest to do so. But I wanted to share something else before our time is up, a couple different things. May I have just a moment?
Go right ahead.
Okay. I despite what the Democrats and liberals continue to say about the Trump administration and possible collusion there with Russia to prevent Hillary Rodham Clinton from being elected, I believe, and there are indications to back me up on this, that the Trump administration is seeking to break up the Russian-Iran alliance.
Yes.
That's what I really believe is at the core of the president's strategy. And I think that by precipitating this strike in Syria, I thought it was fascinating that, Putin came out and think about this for a moment. After that airstrike, when Putin was in Italy just a couple of days ago, he said to the president of Italy, he said, that chemical attack that happened in Syria is worth investigating thoroughly. Now I'm quoting, quote, worth investigating thoroughly, end quote.
Yes.
But the president of Russia would formally ask the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, that he would formally ask for an inquiry on who initiated that attack. What does that say to us? That says to us that he's already looking for a way to distance himself from the Assad regime. And that goes to my point that I believe that this president would like to do. I think he would like to help Russia move away from Iran, move away from Syria, move away from China. And I'll tell you why. I think because President Trump understands that we need Russia in this fight against ISIS.
Yeah, that's true.
Russia has been fighting Islamic terrorists in Chechnya.
Yes.
He's got them in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. I mean, there are Islamic terrorists in all 5 of the Islamic breakaway republics that happened at the termination of the Soviet Union under the leadership of President Reagan. Everybody remembers that those 15 Soviet republics all evolved into independent nation states. And many of them, Muslim-dominant countries, have their own Islamic terrorists operating there. And so really, it would, just as in World War II, towards the end of the war, it was helpful to establish that Russian alliance, at least for the short term, to bring World War II to an end against the Nazis and the Japanese. And I think that it's intelligent and wise of the president to think about using the Russians now to help end this war against ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Because think about, and again, I draw you and your listeners' attention to that attack in St. Petersburg.
Exactly.
Just, what was that, a week ago?
Exactly.
Again, ISIS took credit for that. So wouldn't it be really of strategic import to have the Russians supporting the Americans in this fight against ISIS, which the Russians have not done in Syria?
Exactly.
The Russians have fought those that have been fighting the Assad regime. Now, some of them may have been al-Nusra, some of them might have been al-Qaeda, some of them might have been ISIS. But the focus was on saving the Assad regime because Iran would love to control the Assad regime.
Exactly.
Which is, in effect, what it's been doing, and what it's doing in Yemen and Libya and Iraq. I mean, when you look at the Iranian-backed Houthis in Yemen, when you look at Iranian forces inside Libya, when you look at the destabilization that's going on by the Shiite population in Saudi Arabia, when you look at Hezbollah in Lebanon, I mean, it's tremendously important that the people here in the United States understand that Iran used to control Iraq, was part of the Persian Empire.
Exactly.
And they would love to absolutely control Baghdad from Tehran.
And they were looking for the fall of Baghdad after the Americans had left in order to create that puppet administration. You're absolutely right. And I'm hoping, with all due respect, that as spoken, that those are the plans of this particular administration. And sincerely, I really don't want them forgive me, speaking forward in terms of their perceptions of what they're going to do. I do want them to meet with Putin, and I do want them to meet with Jinping, and I do want them to meet with the Ayatollahs in terms of smashing the Iranian deal with us. I want those things to be done. What we don't want is a quagmire, and I don't think that's going to happen because of the president that we have versus what we had before. And I think that's one of the biggest hindrances for a lot of conservatives getting on the bandwagon. We've been down this road before. We were very supportive of red lines, and then when we expected something to be done, someone bent over backwards to make certain that the Russians did take the helm and allowed the other nations to continue propping up ISIS.
Well, the bottom line is that, the Obama administration was all about diplomacy.
Yeah.
But the Trump administration is more in line with the idea that there can only be peace through strength. So there has to be an exercise of muscular diplomacy.
Yes.
And Iran's pro-Assad coalition has got to be rolled back. In fact, Iran needs to be to Tehran.
Yes.
And I don't believe that Iran. I don't think that Trump administrations will meet with Iran. We might through a back channel.
Yeah.
I don't believe we will, but I don't know that that's necessary. I think we can send to Iran, as the president already has, with respect to chemical and biological weapons. Be very careful. And I'll tell you something with respect to North Korea, and you know that the president is deeply concerned about the ballistic missiles that North Korea continues to fire off.
Yes.
And I thought it was interesting that just over the last few days, the United States has rerouted warships towards the Korean Peninsula. And I understand an aircraft carrier and several other warships are now presenting a show of force. Just days after North Korea tested another intermediate range missile. If the president decides to have a limited airstrike, a targeted, very limited airstrike against some of the air bases inside Korea, maybe some of the nuclear plants, because North Korea, everybody needs to know, has been advancing their nuclear weapons program. I believe they have the ability on their short range and intermediate range nuclear, or ballistic missiles to affix a nuclear warhead on them. So if there is a targeted attack, as there was last Thursday on Assad's air base, I think that conservatives need to applaud this, because we cannot allow the North Korean nuclear threat to continue to grow, because North Korea has promised to continue its work on intercontinental ballistic missiles headed towards Los Angeles and San Francisco, as well as places like Washington and New York City. So if we want to put North Korea in its place and draw back its ability to initiate short-range, intermediate, and intercontinental ballistic missiles with nuclear warheads, there's got to be something done at some point, because, it wasn't just President Obama, but President Bush, too. I mean, Condoleezza Rice bent over backwards in the area of diplomacy with the North Koreans and the Chinese, even with the Palestinians. And, created that, thanks to Rice and Bush, there's a lot of innocent children that have had their throat slit in Israel because under the Bush-Rice team, worked to get the Gaza Strip completely emptied of all of its Jewish residents. And so, of course, as a result, Palestinians took control. And now there's been one missile attack after another. And they've built all those tunnels going from Gaza into southern Israel that have been killing or kidnapping Israelis and initiating bomb threats. And in case your listeners don't know, ISIS is in Gaza too, and in Judea and Samaria, because when I was in Israel, I mean, there have been ISIS flags on the Temple Mount steps. So, it's important that we realize, what a threat ISIS is, not only to the United States, but to our ally, Israel. But it's important that we understand that there are still states that sponsor terrorism on the Sunni side, as well as the Iranian-backed Shiite side. So it's a major threat, and North Korea, which has signed an important, has not once, but at least twice that I know of, signed military deals with Iran. They're very much in bed with one another. And so I think that that's important, too, that we recognize the sort of axis of evil that exists between North Korea, the communist countries of Russia, China, and North Korea, and countries like Iran and Syria. So very, very important.
Listen, Denise, we got to have you come back.
Okay.
No,
thank you.
I don't often make that statement to people, but on Tuesday nights for me, Foreign Policy Night, that's what we really talk about. And Janis Hall will be following you in the next hour. We'll be talking about some of the other issues related to foreign policies around the country, like the election in Turkey to make the Erdogan more powerful, virtually a supreme leader. There's some things that are going on right now that the rest of America isn't being given privy to by the mainstream media that just wants to yell and scream that Donald Trump is a member of the Russian mob. I am very thankful for you being on tonight and making the connection of dots between all the things that are going on. And I look forward to you returning to us in the coming weeks because
and let me just ask your audience to please pray for Christians that are left in Muslim dominant countries. You know, so many Christians are targeted for torture and death. We saw the bombings in Egypt over the weekend. 2 Coptic Christian churches were firebombed. And of course, the Jewish people as well. There was another missile attack in Israel over the weekend.
Exactly.
So, you know, as Easter and Passover are on us, let's be sure and pray for our fellow Christians and Jews who are really suffering at this particular time, that are either inside Muslim countries or next to them and are suffering as a result.
Exactly. I would love for you to come back and talk with us about that in greater detail as well. The Coptic Christians of Egypt are at great risk, while we are not speaking about Christians in Iran and other places around the world in which direct attacks, and also Jews as well. So there's a lot going on that the candy media doesn't want to tell you about. And so I'm very thankful for you being here with us tonight. Denise Gary-Pandol.
Well, thank you.
You all have got to tune her in. A new Middle East.com. Yes, go ahead.
May I tell them? They can go to my website. If they go to my website, Strategic Solutions for a New Middle East. Let me give you a shorter title for my website. Just www.anewmiddleeast.com. I'll have my latest show up. I talk about the persecution of Christians and what's going on there this week. And I've shared, in fact, I've got a great couple clips that I've shared, one from a Syrian refugee thanking President Trump for what he's done and talking about the hatred that's taught Muslims against Christians and Jews. It's very informative, and so I'll have that new show up on my website if people would like to go to it there.
Terrific. Well, we look forward to hearing from you more and more. We are definitely going to turn people towards you at anewmiddleeast.com, anewmiddleeast.com. The Denise Gary-Pandol radio show, it's the show that you've been missing, and it will definitely give you insights on foreign policy that you're not getting in the mainstream media. Thank you so much. Look forward to you coming back.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Miss Denise Gary-Pandol. We will be right back with more of the best. And we did go over, and I want to thank the good people at Red Nation Rising. I know that some of you all may have left or whatever. You're going over to new shows or whatever. But thank you all so much for staying tuned with us. Also, SHR Media tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. BZ, yes, that's Sir Mark the Bloviating Zeppelin at bloviatingzeppelin.net. He has a new show on SHR Media called Berserk Bobcat Saloon. You need to stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, they're going to be about 4 minutes of commercials here. So do me a great favor. Stay tuned to each and every one of them, for you're going to learn something new in each of them. God bless you. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from the nation's capital. We are certainly not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation, first to the Republican and then the Socialist.
From the war front to the streets of our nation's capital, men of faith, Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor, and Kenneth McClinton, the exceptional conservative, bring both constitutional gravitas and spiritual perspective on today's issues to the most influential Christian urban talk show, 9:05 p.m. Eastern, Thursdays. It's a new day on New Day, Black and Red.
Hi, my name is Christopher Arnold. I'm the executive chef of the Fuse Restaurant, and today I'm going to walk you through some of the meals that we prepare here. So we're making a pizza. We use fresh Italian sausage that we cook here and slice it up. Our pizza dough is in-house made. Our pizza sauce is in-house made. So everything is fresh ingredients. This is our Thai curry chicken. The sauce is made with coconut milk and the Thai red curry. It is juicy chicken thighs as well as some mixed vegetables, served with jasmine rice and pita bread. So now we're going to prepare our famous blackened tilapia and grits, our fish and grits on the menu. Once the fish is ready, then our meal will be complete. Let me tell you about our infused beef burger. We kick the spice up just a little bit with our infused sauce. We start off with 80-20 USDA round chuck ham patty burgers, like half a pound of burgers, and we're going to grill it to perfection. After I flip the burger, we add the sauce and let it cook on into the meat mix a little bit. We're going to add a little bit of pepper jack cheese to this burger to spice it up a bit. Order up!
Order up indeed, ladies and gentlemen. 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland is the place to be. Farm living is not a necessity. It's good food, man. It's a dime for. 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland. Get the exceptional one. 8 strips of bacon, 2 big double pound burgers. It's the size of my head. Get it, eat it. It's good. Ladies and gentlemen, please get your cigarettes together. All gentlemen, head towards the front porch. It's Melanie time. Yeah, we got to play her commercial, and you know how you all react to it. So, guess we got to play it.
You are listening to the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.theexceptionalconservativeshow.com.
Morning Talk with Melanie is a lively discussion of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics. Join my business diva, Melanie Collette, as I speak with respected entrepreneurs, CEOs, authors, and politicians as we explore today's fiscal environment. Morning Talk with Melanie airs every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10:05 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Exceptional Conservative Network. Remember, this is important because it's your money.
Ladies and gentlemen, I did not have a chance to get to, but I will definitely do in the last quarter of our program. The Seattle mayor who decided that it was a good thing, since he was already a homosexual, to begin recruiting and sexually assaulted some minors. And so I want to talk with you about that, and also the fact that there's not an outcry from the LGBTQ Rainbow Coalition community at all over this. It's just part of branding. Also want to talk with you in that latter quarter of the hour regarding a young girl who was raped by 5 refugees. Ladies and gentlemen, I am telling you without a shadow of a doubt, don't let them tell you that there is no impact on immigration in our country and the heinous behavior of those who happen to be on the left. They approve of these things, and that's why you don't see them marching in the street. We will see you on the other side of the Exceptional Conservative Show in the next hour. Stay tuned at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, of course. The Bloviating Zeppelin will be live and in charge. We'll be right back.
Hey, it's Jersey Joe from the Reamer Common Sense. You can catch me every Wednesday night
8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on shrmedia.com. That's every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, shrmedia.com.
Hi, my name is Willie Lawson of The Willie Lawson Show here on the Exceptional Conservative Network. We have a brand new show on at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. We are bound to make you think. We are bound to make you see things differently. We are bound to push you into action for not only your community, but your country. That's The Willie Lawson Show on the Exceptional Conservative Network, 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. See you there.
The dream deferred is real. You've been waiting for the Exceptional Conservative Network, and now it's here. Go to theexceptionalconservativeshow.com. Tune in and get the best in urban conservative talk. Stop dreaming. It's real.
Shekinah Ranch is involved in helping youth through the snags along the pathway to adulthood. The last 8 years have created greater challenges. Having a president to parade perversion to our youth has generated the need for us to ramp up our character learning 100-fold. Today's youth are confused. Our goal is to give them a fresh understanding of creation, moral clarity, respect for authority. In short, restore absolutes and boundaries. Boys are born boys and girls are born girls. God's design. Right is right even when no one else is doing it. The Exceptional Conservative Network is underway to raise $10,000 to help advance this mission. Together, let's reverse the confusion aimed at our youth. Don't be a spectator. Go to our donation portal and make your financial contribution. Do it now. Your gift goes towards helping youth get clarity. Moral clarity. Thank you.
Come on, Mr. Nunez, say it ain't so.
Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, Representative Devin Nunez, please step out of the politically correct parallel universe you've gotten stuck in. Your Wempus Americanos apologeticus decision to temporarily step aside as head of the Russian probe pending the outcome of an outlandish, progressive-oriented ethics investigation? Sir, I know you said, quote, is in the best interest of the House Intelligence Committee and the Congress, unquote. But that makes about as much sense as saying that the Chucky Schumers of the world, Nasty Pelosi, and even Governor Snyder of Michigan have good intentions regarding America because those progressive globalists do not. Mr. Nunez, your clear and precise investigation had the crooked progressive Democrats shaking in their crappy boots. Oh, I understand that several left-wing activist groups have filed accusations against you with the Office of Congressional Ethics. It was done to prevent the American people from getting the whole truth about improper unmasking of the identities of U.S. citizens and other abuses of power. Such typical Republican style of rolling over and caving into the whims of deviant progressives is both stupid and dangerous for the Republic. I'm Ron Edwards.
Sponsored by the Tri-County Liberty Coalition.
Hello, this is Leslie Ann Sophie with The Real Clear Israel. Join me every Sunday morning at 10:05 Eastern Time on the Exceptional Conservative Network, where we'll be discussing Israel with guests from Israel and around the world.
That's The Real Clear Israel, 10:05 Sunday on the Exceptional Conservative Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you back to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from the nation's capital. We are certainly not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, but it is the power of liberation, first to the Republican and then the socialist. I'm yours truly, and I want to talk with you tonight very quickly before we go to none other than the beautiful, the vivacious, and the brilliant Janis Hall, J. Hall World Report. Ladies and gentlemen, a community is reacting to, in Twin Falls, right now, a community is reacting to the behavior of individuals who decided that it was okay to sexually assault a 5-year-old Twin Falls girl. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to play this clip for you. I'll put this out for your hearing. It's only about 3 minutes, but just to let you know where we are with that.
Fact that for this little girl and this family, this case will not be resolved for a long, long time, if ever.
3 juveniles accused of assaulting a 5-year-old girl pled guilty yesterday. The family's attorney says that guilty plea does not change what's already been done. It was a story, as you know, that sparked uproar across the region and across the country. A 5-year-old Twin Falls girl sexually assaulted in her apartment complex's laundry room.
And the 3 boys involved, aged 14, 10, and 7, from Sudan and Iraq, and they have taken felony plea agreements. Now, you'll remember that this story did gain national attention over rumors that the suspects were Syrian refugees. KTVB's Dean Johnson spoke with the victim's attorney and brings us this story from Twin Falls.
Many of the details in this case are unknown, as the case is sealed due to the fact that it's a juvenile case. Now, the victim's family attorney says although they were not completely satisfied with these plea agreements, they were long overdue.
You know, the parents, I think, and the little girl sort of live day to day. It's possibly a little better now.
After 10 months of court proceedings, Mark Gary, the family's attorney, says they're moving forward.
They needed closure of this chapter, and they needed to move forward.
Gary says even though his clients were ready to testify at trial, he advised them to approve the plea agreements.
The primary reason we accepted the plea agreements is because it held each perpetrator, each juvenile, accountable for a felony, and because the crimes acknowledged the sexual assault nature of these offenses.
However, Gary says after months of delayed legal proceedings, the family thought things could have been handled better.
The fact of the matter is, they haven't been completely satisfied with the process because they felt neglected.
Gary says that's because rumors of the suspect's national origin overshadowed the actual crime.
This little girl, in my opinion, has been relegated to the back seat, so to speak. She's almost been an afterthought in this case.
Twin Falls Police Chief Craig Kingsbury says when it comes to these types of situations,
cases like this, there are no winners and there are no losers. I think that it's important that we take the month of April to focus on child abuse prevention, as April is Child Abuse Prevention Month.
Grandma Jo, the woman who walked in on the incident at the apartment complex, asked us not to show her on camera, but was visited by the family yesterday.
They came to the door and the little girl says, "You still love me, don't you, Grandma?" And I said, "Yes, I do."
This is Grandma Jo and the family look to move on.
They won and they were happy and everybody was pleased, and that's how it ended. I'm glad it's all over with and I don't have to put up with any of that anymore.
But Gary says everything that has happened has taken its toll.
Nothing we can do can restore her happiness or her innocence. She will be dealing with this for years to come.
The 3 defendants still have to be sentenced. A date has not yet been set. In Twin Falls, I'm Dean Johnson, Idaho's News, Channel 7.
Well, the family attorney adds there could be a civil suit filed by the family in the near future.
Ladies and gentlemen, 3 refugees raped a 5-year-old girl in Twin Falls, Idaho. And we're the bad guys. We're the bad guys because we say that maybe these people just aren't used to what we call freedom or liberty. Maybe they don't have the right mindset when it comes to women. Maybe with that Quran and the Hadith and all the other instruments of their tyranny and cultish aims and pursuits, which degrade the role and gender of women. Maybe we've got this all wrong and confused. Maybe we should be like Canada and Australia and all the enlightened European nations and open our women in our country to like Sweden. What? This is what the left would like for you to do. I'm just telling you, this is exactly what the left would like for you to do. And there are too many of us who are willing to say yay and amen. We don't want to be seen as racist, Islamophobic. Mind you, the Sudan and Iraq, 3 of them. Ladies and gentlemen, coming up now, none other than the vivacious young one, certainly a mastermind of foreign policy, and I thank God for her being with us every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, none other than Janis Hall, the J Hall World Report. 1 ringy dingy, 2 ringy dingies, 3 ringy dingies. There we go. 1 ringy dingy.
Hello, you have reached Janis. Please leave a message.
Okay, we're all right. We have to try another. There we go. Let's see. Will this do it? Will this? No, that's not it. Okay. All right. We will try this. Try this one right here. No, that's not it. Ladies and gentlemen, when we come back from our break, we will discuss this in greater detail. And no, Melanie, I'm not being mean and contentious. Just saying I have some issues with DAs. That's all I'm saying. We'll be right back with more of the best in urban conservative talk right after these messages.
Hey, it's Jersey Joe from the Dreamer Common Sense. You can catch me every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on shrmedia.com. That's every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, shrmedia.com.
The greatest advertisers in all of the world are on the Exceptional Conservative Show and the Exceptional Conservative Network. Buy their products and share their good news. Go to theexceptionalconservativeshow.com right now. We'll be back after these messages.
With home values up and interest rates near all-time lows, you probably know that now is a great time to refinance, like the Johnsons, who saved $436 a month.
$436 a month?
It's simple. Just go to LendingTree.com, compare loan offers for free, and see how much you could save in just 5 minutes.
I thought you said the bank gave you the best rate.
Yeah.
LendingTree. When banks compete, you win.
I have to do everything myself.
Someone is sleeping on the couch tonight.
So what do you think about ebooks? Maybe you've never read an ebook before, but you're considering giving it a try. Or maybe you've been reluctant to try ebooks because you don't want to buy another expensive electronic device. Or maybe you already enjoy ebooks, but you haven't been able to find titles from your favorite Christian authors. Whatever your situation, ChristianBook.com has the solution. Your trusted source for print books for over 30 years now offers ebooks. Our always free CBD reader allows you to read on the devices you already own without spending money on a new device. Thousands of Christian ebooks at ChristianBook.com means you can shop with confidence and choose from the titles you want. Plus, we are adding new titles all the time. Browse our huge selection of low-priced Christian ebooks the same way you would printed books, only now you can go from shopping to reading in seconds. Simply select the ebook you wish to purchase, confirm your account information, and start reading. Free samples of every ebook are available, so you can preview the book first, before you buy it. Plus, there's no lengthy app downloads and updates. Accessing the CBD Reader is as easy as going to cbdreader.christianbook.com and bookmarking the page. The CBD Reader holds your ebooks and bookmarks for you, no matter what device you're on. So, you can take your entire ebook library wherever you go and pick up right where you left off. Our customizable options make it possible to read your ebooks in different font sizes and styles. Want a large print version? You've got it in seconds with a simple click of the mouse. Already own a dedicated e-reader? Download your ebooks to your computer from your christianbook.com account and transfer them to your device. Try ebooks at christianbook.com and start reading your favorite books in seconds. Easy, economical, everywhere you want to read. Welcome to christianbook.com ebooks.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome you back to the Exceptional Conservative Show, live from the nation's capital. Much going on in the chat room. Okay. Much going on in the chat room. So glad to have you all here. Want to say good evening to White Mamba, also Mary Brockman, Dave Milner, and Claudia Cheek. And Mary Brockman, my bouncer. If you diss her, you diss me, you will be dismissed. So glad to have you all here. And we miss you, Melody. So glad that you were in there for a bit. Let us get in contact with none other than Janis Hall. We're going to try this one more time. Let's hope all is well. Okay, and so we're just going to visit this particular evening, I suppose. Good. No,
Hello.
we're not. Good evening, Janis Hall, J Hall World Report. So glad to have you here tonight.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. Listen, picking up on a story out of Twin Falls, Idaho, where a 5-year-old was raped by 3 refugees, two from Sudan, 1 from Iraq. It seems that we have lost our minds completely in the area of Islamophobia. And I wanted to broach with you tonight a story that I found contemptuous, but my goodness, it just seems to be the wave. The whole idea that our Western civilization has fallen to the cults of the East, out of Australia being the top story I want to talk with you about tonight.
Yeah, so I thought this story was really interesting. So a photographer wanted to essentially, speak out against Islamophobia and racism and that stuff. And so he's done a couple different collections of essentially a woman in a burqa, and one collection was in essentially landscapes, rural landscapes in Australia. Then he's now done another one, which is urban landscapes. And what I think was mostly interesting to me is that even though that was his intent, well, was essentially to show that, it's normal, this is a normal thing for Australia. My original thought when I saw it, without knowing what his intent was actually the opposite. Mm-hmm. I viewed the pictures as just a way, as a juxtaposition. To me, the pictures seem to show that the burqa does not belong in Australia. And to go a little artsy, and just the separation that the person and the burqa has with the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. And how, and to me, that seems, it seems unacceptable. So anyway, I thought it was interesting because my take on it was completely the other side of what the photographer had done.
Exactly.
But they are very good pictures.
Well, yeah, I'm looking at those particular pictures, and I put those in the chat room for those who are following along. It's a story out of Sydney, Australia. Urban Burqa is what it is, and an artist's striking critique of Islamophobia. And that was done by Clarissa Sebag of Montefiore, I'm sorry, Clarissa Sebag Montefiore of Sydney, Australia. Apparently, we're supposed to all don, well, at least the women should all be donning hijabs because it's the in thing. You just fit in so well. In every place in urban America with your hijab. Isn't, I mean, do people understand what a hijab really means in terms of feminism and womanhood?
I think not. I mean, I hope not, because they shouldn't be promoting it as something to be normal or to strive for.
Exactly. And they have pictures of the person in front of painted areas and uh, a place where they're roller skating, roller skate park and things. And somehow, if you don't assign yourself, if you don't sign on to this, then you're Islamophobic. Isn't that a reach?
It seems like a reach to me. I mean, I don't know. When I look at the pictures, I see the person in the burqa as being completely separated from the rest of the world, which is essentially what the burqa is supposed to do in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's just, yes, I don't quite understand why this is supposed to be, why we should be promoting this as normal.
Exactly.
I mean, should we be promoting, domestic violence as normal? I don't think so. So I don't think that we should be promoting the burqa as normal either.
It's exactly. We're talking with Janis Hall of Janis Hall World Report, the J Hall World Report. It's unsettling that the world is trying to make us accept the burqa as a princely way of adorning our great affections for those who happen to practice Mohammedanism. While, I mean, we just finished talking about 3 refugees who raped a 5-year-old girl. And we have the refugee story in Montgomery County, Maryland, or at least illegal, undocumented, or illegal alien, however way you wish to say it. But there is a certain sense in Eastern civilization when you atone with the concept of Mohammedanism and such the ilk, that the woman doesn't have a vital role in society at all, that she is the least of things. You should walk upon her.
Yes, essentially that is true.
Wow.
And I just don't, why would these with these liberals who are, feminists, would they be saying that the burqa is something that should be promoted in Afghanistan? I would think not. And I think that, probably a decade or two ago, they would have said that the fact that there's a burqa in Afghanistan or, anything similar would have been a huge infringement on a woman's human rights. And to now say that, to essentially make it normal and in Western society seems to me just somewhat outrageous.
Exactly. Well, we got a lot to talk about tonight of stuff that's happening around the world, but that just coincides to the mentality that we've been indoctrinated with over the past 8 years and the latter 2 to 4 years of the Bush administration, that somehow we should be apologetic for not being Mohammedans. And quite frankly, it is they who are terrorizing countries left and right. throughout our hemispheres. And quite frankly, I think that we should be very, very afraid at this particular juncture, not afraid of them, but afraid of those who have made us blubbering idiots with political correctness. Going back to Palm Sunday, just Sunday, 2 days ago in Egypt, am I bringing out something that's not new at all here? That in Egypt, there were explosions against Christians?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, Palm Sunday, Christians were going to church to celebrate, and there was a bombing. And a couple dozen people got killed.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, that's not an acceptable thing to happen on Palm Sunday.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not an acceptable thing to happen at any time.
Exactly.
But to just, yeah. We definitely should be talking about the persecution that Christians in the Middle East are under. And what happened over the weekend is a very clear indication of that.
Yeah. I'm utterly I'm utterly taken back by what we're dealing with in this culture where Christians can't go to church in Egypt or even potentially Israel without the threat of being assaulted by those who happen to be Mohammedans. Will it only matter if it happens here to people here?
Well, quite frankly, I'm not entirely sure that the media and or the left would be bothered if it happened here either.
Wow! Wow!
I'm rather pessimistic these days.
Very pessimistic. Why? Doesn't that say a whole lot? Sincerely, a whole lot. That literally, if I had a Confederate flag and a gun rack and I blew up a church, there would be tens of millions of people ready to march. But if a church was bombed by a Mohammedan, here in America even, no one would say a word. Am I being hyperbolic there?
Pretty much. Okay. They obviously would cover it. The news would cover it. But I definitely feel that there would not be the same outrage that there would be in some other sort of.
Exactly. If it was a white cop killing a black kid, it would be marching orders delivered from the left. Something like this happening, and all of a sudden, there's nothing to this story. You're just Islamic phobic. I'm getting kind of tired of the Islamophobic crap. I believe the political correctness has left us in such a spate that we now have to firebomb our way out of Syria to get a message across. And I want to talk with you about that and segue the bombing last weekend and virtually starting on Thursday night by the Trump administration in Syria. We just had on Ms. Denise Gary-Pandol of a New Middle East initiative. Want your thoughts on Syria and what's happened over that particular time frame?
Okay, so I will be able to stay on longer, which is probably good because I have a lot of thoughts.
Yes.
Assuming technical issues aside, hoping I don't get kicked off. All right. So my thoughts on Syria and the bombing that happened Thursday night.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about the chemical attack that happened in Syria last week. And then essentially in response, Trump decided that he was going to send some cruise missiles in and generally bomb an airfield, of which they think the plane, I guess, that, conducted the chemical attack came from.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go through generally all the reasons why I think that was not a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to explain why what he did was actually a very good idea. So,
Cool.
Stick with me.
Okay.
All right.
The good ideas first.
Okay. So basically, we have spent. So here's the good reason. For 8 years under Obama, nothing has happened.
Yeah.
Whenever something did happen anywhere in the world, we did nothing. Now, as I have said before, each individual event, we'll say, in that specific event, if you take it completely out of context, probably doesn't warrant us doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
However, combined, they gave a very clear signal to the rest of the world that we were not going to do anything. So, despite the fact that Assad may or may not have actually done anything, conducted this attack, which I have to say would seem rather silly of him to do so.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And regardless if the intelligence was in fact correct, that this is where the plane came from. So, regardless of those two facts,
yep,
that we did something, that Trump did something, is hugely significant.
Mm-hmm.
And is it? I mean, just it shows not only Syria, essentially, in general,
mm-hmm.
Syria in general, that we're not going to tolerate chemical attacks.
Yep.
And it shows the rest of the world, including Russia and China, that we are willing to use force, which is something that seemed to have been anathema to Obama. And I mean, another point I'll say is that as bad as it is to have a sarin, gas attack, the death toll is relatively small in comparison to more conventional fighting that's been going on in Syria. So, I mean, you could also argue, why should we, respond to this when, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that's probably even worse going on. And I know that there's been also a lot of people like Rand Paul who've been complaining that, we don't want to get involved. And I agree.
Yeah.
We should not be getting involved in Syria.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think sending in a few bombs into the area,
mm-hmm.
doing something, is not necessarily getting involved, and I think is generally the proper response.
Okay. So in this particular case, and I'm along those particular lines with you. I don't want to be there. I really don't want those 1,000 troops to be there either. It's over 1,000 troops now in special. I really don't want them there at all.
No, because, I don't either.
Yeah, because we don't know who the bad guy is, the good guy is.
Right.
And I really, and from listening to all sides, and this is just my opinion, and I'm a talking head to a lot of conservatives, and a sellout to many liberals, but it was great that they all came on board with patriotism and supported Donald Trump in this particular initiative. But it seems more excuse than reason, and this is why I'm going to say this. You needed to send a message to Xi Jinping while you were meeting with him on that particular night, and you also wanted to send a message to Vladimir Putin that you're not bending over backwards nowhere near him, unlike the former Chicago pew sitter, and quite frankly, you're not going to give up anything. And in fact, the real leader in the world is making his presence known. I think don't get me wrong here. Chemical weapons and the usage of it is a just a maleficent thing. You don't use that in weaponry at all. However, based on what we know, and that Russia was involved in this was his way of getting back very quickly to Vladimir Putin a week or two before he was going to meet with him and let him know that the real man in town is me. I'm the sheriff, and this is how we're going to run this race. Am I close in opinion in terms of an analysis of that situation?
I think that's pretty close. Yes, definitely. Showing China and North Korea that we will do something, and yes, also showing Russia that they, if nothing else, do need to get the situation in Syria under control, and that if Russia's going to be the power in that region, that they need to be somewhat responsible and make sure that chemical weapons attacks don't happen.
Exactly. We're talking tonight. We got to go to a quick break. Janis Hall, the J Hall War Report. It'll be the last commercial break of our segment. This show is going very fast, and we're talking about a lot of it. We haven't even uncovered. We're just on the tip of all the things. We haven't talked about China with its relationship to North Korea. We haven't talked about the Philippines and in the South China Sea. You got Attorney General Sessions and on immigration earlier today, which affects foreign policy. There's just so much, and we have only touched the tip of the iceberg in our conversation with Janis Hall, J Hall War Report. We will be back with the final segment of the Exceptional Conservative Show right after these messages.
So what do you think about ebooks? Maybe you've never read an ebook before, but you're considering giving it a try. Or maybe you've been reluctant to try ebooks because you don't want to buy another expensive electronic device. Or maybe you already enjoy ebooks, but you haven't been able to find titles from your favorite Christian authors. Whatever your situation, ChristianBook.com has the solution. Your trusted source for print books for over 30 years now offers ebooks. Our always free CBD reader allows you to read on the devices you already own without spending money on a new device. Thousands of Christian ebooks at ChristianBook.com means you can shop with confidence and choose from the titles you want. Plus, we are adding new titles all the time. Browse our huge selection of low-priced Christian ebooks the same way you would printed books, only now you can go from shopping to reading in seconds. Simply select the ebook you wish to purchase, confirm your account information, and start reading. Free samples of every ebook are available, so you can preview the book first, before you buy it. Plus, there's no lengthy app downloads and updates. Accessing the CBD Reader is as easy as going to cbdreader.christianbook.com and bookmarking the page. The CBD Reader holds your ebooks and bookmarks for you, no matter what device you're on. So, you can take your entire ebook library wherever you go and pick up right where you left off. Our customizable options make it possible to read your ebooks in different font sizes and styles. Want a large print version? Own a dedicated e-reader? Download your ebooks to your computer from your ChristianBook.com account and transfer them to your device. Try ebooks at ChristianBook.com and start reading your favorite books in seconds. Easy, economical, everywhere you want to read. Welcome to ChristianBook.com ebooks.
You've been waiting for it, and we delivered. The Exceptional Conservative Network at theexceptionalconservativeshow.com. The best in urban conservative talk from sea to shining sea. Stay tuned for the best, the brightest, the truth. You've been waiting for it, and we delivered. The Exceptional Conservative Network at theexceptionalconservativeshow.com. You've been waiting for it, and we delivered. Yeah, we really delivered it. We'll be right back.
You are listening to the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.theexceptionalconservativeshow.com. Begin your mornings the right way with some right thinking from me, Perry Drake, your friendly neighborhood drive-by pundit. I want you to join me every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern and 9 a.m. Central Time on the Exceptional Conservative Network. From politics to pop culture to relationships to whatever else is on your mind, we have a great deal to talk about. Join in and let's get the talking started.
Good morning.
I'm Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Okay, folks, that's not how it goes. I think I'm Shannon and you're Michael.
Yeah.
Okay. We are The Right Way with Shannon and Mike.
Join us from 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern Time.
Live on SHR Media.
And on TECN.
Where we'll be talking about all kinds of things.
From sports and politics.
To food and entertainment.
To money.
Family.
And anything else in between.
Community, holidays, all kinds of things.
It'll be great. Join us from 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern Time.
The bloviating Zeppelin. He's big-footed enough radio shows to last a lifetime, courtesy of Sean, Clint, Ken, and Jersey Joe. Now it's time for him to waddle on his own 2 feet via the glorious SHR Media. Gird thy loins for the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, coming soon to ossicles near you. Excelsior.
Yes, the Berserk Bobcat Saloon coming up at 11 p.m. Less than 15 minutes from now, in fact. And we welcome you back to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from the nation's capital. Janis Hall, the J. Hall World Report with us tonight. Janis, a whole lot of stuff going around in the world today. I want to talk with you very quickly about the Turkey situation. Apparently, there is a constitutional referendum on Sunday. And what could that mean to NATO and to the rest of the world?
Yep. So we talked a little bit about this in relation to Europe.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, Erdogan wants to make his dictatorship more formal.
Mm-hmm.
So he put forward a referendum that essentially gives him more power.
Yeah.
Because, if you're a dictator, of course you want more power. Look, I think we can all agree that this is not good.
Yes.
The fact that there is even a referendum about this is not good. We'll have to see what happens, and if it passes, I'm kind of inclined to think that it will pass because, well, they say elections under dictators tend to go their way.
Mm-hmm.
I think that regardless of the referendum, we're going to have a very difficult time with Turkey in NATO. They are becoming less secular as we speak. And I think that this is just another step down the road of Turkey essentially not really being a great ally or even potentially any ally to the U.S. and NATO.
Exactly. And see, that's my thought right here. If they pass that referendum on Sunday, making Erdogan, who is the president of Turkey, virtual dictator, what role does he have in Turkey? Are we supposed to be those who put our arms around dictators as part of NATO? I thought that's not what NATO was about, right?
No. Well, I mean, specifically, NATO was to deal with the Soviet Union, which doesn't exist. And Turkey was rather important with that because they are very strategically located. And they still are very strategically located. So it was nice to have them. However, the Soviet Union does not exist anymore. And I don't think that it is wrong to reassess NATO and what it's, what it is and what it should be doing. I am inclined to think that regardless of Turkey's, location and strategic value, that if they are going down the road of, being more authoritarian and, essentially becoming less secular and having, making law that is based more on Islam than anything else, then I think that we should definitely be reassessing their role in NATO and what kind of partnership we have with them.
I don't know what the entire geopolitical complications will be in this. I know that Turkey is a bridge between the refugees between Syria and North Africa into Europe. I know that they have a great oil relationship with Europe and gas relationship with across Russia. I know that we supposed to have a relationship with them in terms of protecting them from invasion, and what a magnificent status to have, while you're also supporting entities like ISIS and Hezbollah. You know what? They don't fit anymore. It's time for us to let them go. And quite frankly, we need to send them a reminder as to what our role is in terms of keeping Europe free. Am I wrong on that? Are there options here?
No, I don't think that you're wrong on that. I do think that, yes, we either need to somehow try and convince them that the road that they're going down is not beneficial for them and us, or we do need, I think essentially to, for the most part, cut ties with them. I will say that it is to some degree unfortunate that, this could potentially happen. The Turkish military is generally relatively friendly to us. We've had, pretty good relations. I know, obviously earlier there was an attempted coup, which didn't go very well.
Yeah.
Whether or not that was actually the military that conducted that is, hard to say. But yes, I think point being that it is unfortunate to lose Turkey.
Yeah.
They have, great promise, but essentially, if they're going to continue going this way, then I think we need to let them go.
Exactly.
And to reevaluate our relationship.
And we've talked before that as soon as the Arab Spring hit, Erdogan began rubbing his hands together with the evil rub of hand, knowing that with Egypt smitten with potential caliphate and dealing with internal issues that were being induced by the Obama administration, someone was now going to take their place as the military peacekeeper for the Middle East. And by golly, since he's with NATO, why not he? And he's done a wonderful job. Why not? Hey, I'm the guy. Yeah, I'll take it back. And he has taken supreme advantage of that. The most sorrowful thing is that a nation that was once noted for its commitment to secularism and freedom and liberty for all, you might begin seeing women running around now in hijabs in Turkey. What a crashing blow to freedom under NATO. Want to talk with you very briefly, and we'll end the segment here with North Korea. There are ships sailing part of the U.S. Navy towards the coast of North Korea. Donald Trump has sent out messages throughout the course of the day that he ain't going to take it no more. And he's going to send one up your gluteus maximus if you say one more thing about him. We know that the North-South Korea war isn't over yet. There is no treaty of finality to that. They are just at a agreement of peace at this particular moment. What are we to make of this? Are we about to create a... Are we at war with North Korea? Is basically what I'm going to ask of you.
I will not. I mean, technically yes, but no. I don't think that we are at war. Right this moment. I do want to point out that along with the U.S. sending an aircraft carrier group up that way, China has also sent 150,000 troops to the North Korean border.
Wow.
So, and I think that's really kind of the big story here, even probably bigger than the movement of ships, because that happens. But I think that for the Chinese to do that, essentially right after having met with Trump, and essentially the administration has come out and said that, economically, trade deal wise, it would be better for China to assist with getting North Korea under control. And I think that is a perfectly legitimate and fair strategy. And if China's really going to assist with this, then I think we could maybe work on something here.
Wow.
So, thus far on the North Korean front with the Chinese, I am encouraged. We'll see how long that lasts.
Now, because we're hearing today that China is refusing to take any imports from North Korea. Amazing what a couple of days will do to you on the world stage. Basically leave them in an economically dismal situation that their biggest trade partner has now rejected them. The U.S. military is on its way to North Korea. The South Koreans are lining up at the border. Are we going to be looking at a regime, the regime change that we will be looking at? It will not be Assad. Will it be Kim Jong-un?
Realistically, what I think might happen is just that North Korea stops saber rattling.
Okay, let's hope that's what it is. But I would love to see them fire off a couple of bombs onto the the silos of their nuclear arsenal. I think that would be so wonderful. Absolutely.
It would be nice.
It would send up such flattering lights to the world. Janis Hall, J. Hall, thank you so much for staying. We really didn't even get to everything that we wanted to talk about tonight. And I want you to stay abreast of everything because the world is on shambles at this point. And America's got to save it, apparently. That's what I'm getting the message back.
Yep.
God bless you. Have a very good night.
All right, you too.
Janis Hall, J. Hall World Report. I tell you, that young woman right there was so far ahead of where the mainstream media was. And, it does my heart good whenever I hear her on the air. It's individuals like that make America great. The bloviating example that happens to be in the chat room this particular evening, and that's to tell us, Sir Mark wants to tell us that the Berserk Bobcat Saloon will be appearing, well, at least you will be appearing if you go to shrmedia.com. I suggest that you go there now, or at least open up another tab on your browser so that you can go immediately there after our program ends and listen to one of the greatest orators and researchers in American history, Sir Mark the Bloviating Zeppelin. You can find his stuff at bloviatingzeppelin.net or the Voice of Liberty on our browser, on our page, the exceptionalconservativeshow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to understand in my closing here, I only have like 3 more minutes before I have to close out, and I want to try to make this as succinct as we possibly can make it. The world that we were talking about 4 or 5 years ago has come. And quite frankly, let me just make it very, very poignant to you in terms of this. Remember when we were being told that we were saber rattling, those on the conservative side of the aisle, that we were neocons, that we wanted to do war with everybody, that we were trying to be the police to the world? Remember when they told us that we were Islamophobic because it wasn't women coming across the Turkish borders into Europe or taking the ride by boat from North Africa into Greece and Italy, or southern France? You see, it wasn't the women and the children, it was grown men 18 to 25 who were on those boats flowing across. And you know, in the days of Hannibal and Ptolemy and the Greek kings and Roman emperors, we would call that an invasion. And it would have been snuffed out at sea. People turned around in the middle of the sea, told, go back from whence you came. But under the last administration, we didn't do that. Under the last administration, we've gave billions of dollars to a tyrannical terrorist nation called Iran, the Republic of Iran, and we turned our backs on the Christians who were locked up in prison there. We turned our backs on the Coptics in Egypt because we were going for the caliphate. Yes, I want caliphate for 500. Ladies and gentlemen, the world that we spoke of coming to pass has come. It has arrived. So on Good Friday, when you're sitting in your pew and you are praising the Lord for the resurrection power of going to the cross of Calvary, I want you to think about those Christians who are really suffering as unto blood. Now, I know you suffer because someone got the wafer that you wanted in the till. I understand. It's tough being you. But the world that we spoke of on the Exceptional Conservative Show has come to pass. And those that are suffering most are the Christians and the Jews overseas. And soon it may be you. All I'm going to say to you is, let us put our prayers together, our hopes and aspirations that we no longer leave from behind. And I want you to remember a military general that I adore, General Patton. If we had listened to General Patton when we finished with Germany, there would be no Vladimir Putin today. But since he's here, let's show him who's really in charge. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back tomorrow night with a wonderful guest, none other than George Farrell. We want to thank Denise, Gary-Pandol for being with us tonight. If you don't remember anything I said, remember this. God bless America. Now it's time for America to bless God. Good night and stay tuned for the Bloviating Zeppelin right after this show.